can show their loyalty to their country is by stating the Pledge of Allegiance. A line I'd like to point out is where we say one nation under God. This tells me that we are a nation who believes, worships, and follows God. According to a religious landscape survey done by Pew Research, 79% of the citizens in the United States are of the Christian religion. Also, many of the laws of our society are based off the Ten Commandments and many of the laws of the Bible. For example, we shouldn't steal, murder, or cheat on our spouses. According to Proverbs 14:34 says, "The righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people." And a quote from Jim Daly of Fox News says, "If religious liberty is lost in America, we will cease to be the nation our founders intended us to be. Our rights will no longer be derived by God, but from man, and therefore dangerously beholden to political despots." And the definition of despots is a tyrant. With this said, I would like to state why the legalization of same-sex marriage will fail in the long run. If our country as a whole decides to legalize same-sex marriage, it will cause problems in the future to come. According to Joseph Chami, the author of Same-Sex Marriage, A New Social Phenomenon, one objection to this same-sex marriage is that it unduly expands the traditional long-standing definition of what constitutes a marriage, seen as the bedrock of a healthy society, to other forms of marital union. For thousands of years, marriage only took place between a man and a woman. Today, people want to make it socially acceptable to allow man to man and a woman to woman to become unified in a marriage. So what happens if it does become legal? As my partner says, people of many groups will expect their definition of love to be accepted and ultimately lead to allowing them to marry whomever they want. But what I mean by this is, people will want to start marrying more than one person. They'll want to start marrying their cousins and possibly even their siblings. You may think this assumption is a little far-fetched, but according to polygamy.com, American Muslims, which represent a small minority of around 50 to 100,000 people, people are living in illegal polygamous relationships here in the U.S. My opponent mentioned that how would we know that polygamy would result from the legalization of gay marriage? We don't, but according to Joseph Chami, author of Same-Sex Marriage, A New Social Phenomenon, the first country to legalize same-sex marriage, the Netherlands, now also permits polygamous unions to be registered. So if this legalization occurred in the Netherlands, why wouldn't it occur here in the United States? Even though I couldn't find strong statistics on the matter of incest, a comment stuck out to me on the website answerbag.com. The question was, is incest common? And a reply I read was, "My father made love to me and took my virginity from a very young age. I think learning about sex from my father showed me how truly deeply he loved me and was a much more positive experience than learning it from some random boy in the backseat." And also from Carlson 2006, a common scenario of similar incest begins a mutually agreed upon sexual behaviors. So there are people in the world who believe incest is completely fine. And I believe if we allow one expansion of a marriage, many more expansions will soon become legal as well. The disadvantages of passing this law: 1, children would lack either a father or a mother. Yes, marriage doesn't necessarily mean you have to raise a child, but according to Pew Social Trends survey, 59% of married people said important reason to marry is to have children. And according to a survey done by William Institute of Law, an estimated 37% of LGBT Americans have had a child. More than 111,000 same-sex couples are raising an estimated of 170,000 biological step or adopted children. Some of the psychological effects on children lacking a parent are this. A study done by the Department of Health and Human Services, fatherless children are at dramatically greater risk of drug and alcohol abuse, mental illness, suicide, poor educational performance, teen pregnancy, and criminality. According to psychologist Eleanor Maccabee, and the two sexes growing up apart coming together, although homosexual men are less likely to have children than lesbians, homosexual men are and will be raising children. There will be even more if homosexual civil marriage is legalized. These households deny children a mother. Among other things, mothers excel in providing children with emotional security and in reading the physical and emotional cues of infants. Obviously, they also give their daughters unique counsel as they comfort the physical, emotional, and social challenges associated with puberty and adolescence. According to G.D. Stanford in the effects of parental marital status, kids who live with both biological parents at age 14 are significantly more likely to graduate from high school than those kids living with a single parent, a step-parent, or neither parent. People may say that children that are being raised by a homosexual couple is completely similar to being raised by a heterosexual couple, but what I found in an article on frc.org, a number of leading professional associations have asserted that there are no differences between children raised by homosexuals and those raised by heterosexuals. But the research in this area is quite preliminary. Most of the studies are done by advocates and most suffer from serious methodological problems. Socialist Stephen Knock of the University of Virginia, who is agnostic on the issue of same-sex marriage, offered this review of literature on gay parenting as an expert witness for Canadian court considering legalization of same-sex marriage. Through this analysis, I draw conclusions that 1, all the articles I reviewed contain at least one fatal flaw of design or execution, and 2, not a single one of those studies was conducted according to general accepted standards of scientific research, according to Stephen Knock. Another disadvantage of this law, as my opponent says, 38% of people believe in same-sex marriage shouldn't be legalized, since Christians strongly believe that passing this law would ultimately lead to an increase in hatred of the gay community. This law is disturbing the beliefs of Christians and others who believe that marriage should be only between a man and a woman. So naturally they're going to repeal. What is done behind closed doors isn't any of our business, but once it's put out for the whole world to know, that's when people start refuting. Another disadvantage is that there's no specific gender role in this marriage. According to Stephen Rhodes, in taking sex differences seriously, marriages typically thrive when spouses specialize in gender-neutral ways and are attentive in gender needs and aspirations of their husband or wife. For instance, women are happier when their husband earns the lion's share of the household income, and these couples are less likely to divorce. According to Stephen Knock, in Marriage in Men's Lives, men who are married earn more, work harder, drink less, live longer, spend more time attending religious services, are more sexually faithful. And according to the Institute for American Values, if the distinctive sexual patterns of committed gay couples are any indication, it is unlikely that homosexual marriage would domesticate men in any way that heterosexual marriage does. It is also extremely unlikely that biological effects of heterosexual marriage...
Jennifer, I gotta cut you
Okay.
off.
That was almost